By the way, I don't want to offend anyone here, but for the Saudis, he's a Muslim. You know, I have to tell you, you go to the Middle East, not only Israel, you go to any country, and you ask the people in the street, Jew, Christian, or Muslim, what is the religion of President Mubarak Hussein Obama? They say he's a Muslim. Okay, so my wife, again, I'm talking about things my wife picks up at her work in Jerusalem. They say to Obama, your job is to destroy the Shiite threat, otherwise we will have our heads cut off. The Saudis are saying to Obama, we will have our heads cut off if you, the Americans, don't save us. And secondly, they say to Obama, your job is to destroy Israel. Do you understand why I'm here tonight? This is a very, very critical moment in the life of Israel and a very critical moment in the life of the United States. You know, there's a pastor, rest in peace, he died in a traffic accident just 2 months ago in Texas, David Wilkerson. How many people heard of David Wilkerson? And he had a prophecy that he gave. I heard this prophecy 15 years ago, that the cities of America would go up in flames because of internal civil war. And I want to tell you something. If the American economy collapses, if the price of oil goes up, or if there is unrest in the world, and the world economy collapses, billions of people will die of starvation, sicknesses, and chaos. Now, billions of people dying, is that God's plan? Or is that Satan's plan? See, Satan's plan is to destroy human life to prove that he's greater than God. You know, when the Muslims pray from their minarets, and they call out, Allahu Akbar, you know, the Allahu Akbar, your media tells you it means God is great. But that's not what it means. Allahu Akbar means Allah is greater. Allah is greater than the other God, the God of the Jews and the Christians. I drew a 3-year jail sentence. You're talking to a convicted felon. I have a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland. It was commuted, to an $800 fine. I went to Switzerland in 2009 again, and I spoke against the Muslim plan to build minarets. How many people know what minarets are? Minarets are those tall spires with loudspeakers. 4:30 in the morning, Allahu Akbar. You think you're going to sleep after that? You're not going to sleep after that. How many people heard of the town of Sheboygan in Michigan? Okay. Sheboygan, wonderful Americans, And the Muslims came and said, well, it's part of our religion to have minarets. So the Americans, are kind of ignorant, don't know about Islam. So, it's part of your religion? You want minarets? You have minarets. Within a few months, the Jews and the Christians moved out. Because you hear the Allahu Akbar at 4:30 in the morning for miles. And that place became a Muslim ghetto. Now, when I went to Switzerland, I shared this. And as you can tell from my message, if Allah wants to hate every Jew, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, and Muslim, and kill every Jew, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, and Muslim, I don't think Allah is God. I think Allah is the opposite of God, which means Allah is Satan. I said this in Switzerland, and I drew a 3-year sentence because I was attacking a religion. Now, Hillary Clinton and President Obama want to pass the Swiss law here in the United States of America, which means very soon, if you are a pastor or a rabbi or a priest or just a speaker, and you speak against Islam, you will draw a 3-year jail sentence. It'll be the end of freedom of speech in the United States of America. How many people heard of Geert Wilders in Holland? Okay, now he was indicted and he was convicted, and then it was overthrown in appeals court. Now, my Swiss party that I was working with, they didn't want to go to the trouble, so I'm convicted. If I had fought it, I know I would have won. I want to tell you a joke. It's not a funny joke, but it explains what we are dealing with. And it's part of my conviction, because I told this joke every night in Switzerland. What's the difference between neurotic people and psychotic people? Neurotic people dream about castles in the air. Psychotic people live in castles in the air. And psychiatrists collect the rent. Now, Adolf Hitler was psychotic for many reasons. Reason number 1, he thought he could conquer the earth. Reason number 2, he thought he could kill all the Jews. Why are these psychoses? Firstly, can anyone conquer the earth? The answer is no. The Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Mongols, tried to conquer the earth. Napoleon, Hitler, Stalin wanted to conquer the earth. Nobody can conquer the earth. Anyone who thinks he can conquer the earth is psychotic, living in castles in the air. Psychosis number 2, Hitler thought he could kill all the Jews. Can you kill all the Jews? Okay, now there are two types of human beings. There are believers and there are non-believers. Believers believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and in the Bible. And in Jeremiah 31:35 it says, paraphrasing, there will be no more Jews on the earth when the moon, the sun, and the stars stop shining. You know what that means? You better pray for the Jews. Because when the Jews go, it means the moon, the sun, and the stars stop shining, which means the end of the earth. That's God's word. But the Hindus, the Buddhists, and the Muslims, who are good people, but they don't believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob or the Bible, but they all know that the Jews have been scattered to the four corners of the earth. If you can't conquer the four corners of the earth, you can't reach all the Jews to kill them. So you understand why the idea of killing all the Jews is an impossibility. What does Islam believe? It's going to conquer the earth. Psychosis number 1. It's going to kill all the Jews. Psychosis number 2. Remember the hadith. The Jews will hide behind rocks and trees, and Allah will give mouth to the rocks and trees, and they will call out, there was a Jew hiding behind me, come and kill him. It makes Islam just as psychotic as Nazism. Psychosis number 3. Islam has plans to terminate the Christians, because the Christians are Jews. In the eyes of Islam, the Christians are Jews. So even Hitler had no plan to kill 2 billion Christians. Psychosis number 4, the death of 1 billion Hindus. Psychosis number 5, the death of 2 billion Buddhists, including the communist Chinese. I mean, you don't want to mess with the communist Chinese. They know what to do. They don't have the ACLU. Psychosis number 6 is that 1/6 of the human race, the Muslims, can kill 5/6 of the human race, the non-Muslims can get away with it. Psychosis number 7, after they kill everyone else, what do they do to each other? They kill each other. In the name of Allah. The Sunnis kill the Sunnis, the Shiites kill the Shiites, and the Sunnis and the Shiites kill each other. And psychosis number, I'm not finished, wait, here comes the good part. Psychosis number 8, when you die for Allah, you get 72 virgins. Now you tell me that's not a psychosis. I mean, I can't manage with one wife. How do they marry 4? 72 is a psychosis. Okay, now, by the way, you know the one about the Osama bin Laden dies for Allah? And he goes to heaven in his white cloak, he's waiting for his virgins, and all of a sudden George Washington comes over and beats him up. And then Patrick Henry comes over and beats him up. And then President Adams comes over and beats him up. And then a whole line forms of 70 tall 6-footers to beat up Osama bin Laden. So Osama goes to Allah's office and says, you promised me 72 virgins. He says, no, silly, I said 72 Virginians. And so I got a 3-year jail sentence for saying Allah is Satan and Islam is not a religion, Islam is a criminal psychosis. So I drew a 3-year jail sentence. And I have news for you. That law is coming to America very soon. Okay, let's go back to the Arab Spring. How many people want 70 million Egyptians to move to America, Muslims? You're not going to rise to the humanitarian challenge? Okay, so let me tell you, and if you protest, you go to jail for 3 years. Okay, now, how many people heard of Agenda 21? Okay, we're going to get to Agenda 21 in a moment. Because there's a method to the madness. I'm a Jew who speaks to Baptists. I'm a Jew who speaks to Assemblies of God. I'm a Jew who speaks to non-denominational. I speak to any Christian group that invites me. September the 6th, I'm going to be speaking in Springfield, Missouri, to an Assembly of God prophecy club. And I'm there every 6 months. Is David Allen Lewis. Has anyone heard of David Allen Lewis? And rest in peace. He died a few years ago. Ramona, his widow, got ordained. She continues the ministry. I was there a year ago. And they told me the month before I spoke, and by the way, this CD is available. I can give you the telephone number where you can order it. A pastor, Don Jones, who is a missionary and has orphanages in Mexico and Haiti, was in Haiti after the earthquake. And he met with a senior UN official who told him that senior UN official had met with President Obama, and Obama told him that America would be a Muslim country by 2016. Now, my wife picks up broadcasts in Arabic every day. The Sheikh Obama's job is to destroy Christian America and make it Muslim. I'm not telling you this stuff because I'm making it up. telling you this stuff because my wife picks it up in Arabic. You want to believe it? Believe it. You don't want to believe it? Don't believe it. But it is my job to tell you these things, and then your blood is not on my hands. You know, it says in the Torah, not in the Torah, in Ezekiel 33, verse 6, it says that the watchman on the tower sees the sword coming, does not sound the alarm, the blood of the people who die will be on the hands of the watchman. I don't want your blood on my hands. I want to go to Syria now. It's a very interesting case. Syria is 80% Sunnis, 10% Christian, 10% Shiite Alawite. Who rules? The 10% Shiite Alawite. The Muslims have been chafing. The Muslims who are Sunnis have been slaughtered by the Shiites who are also Muslims, but they're Shiites, backed by Iran. 1982, there's the city of Hama. 30,000 Sunnis were bombed to death by Hafiz al-Assad. Nobody said a thing. And now it's happening all over again. The same Shiite Alawites, who are 10%, are killing the 80% who are Sunnis. Now, the Sunnis this time are going to win. You know why? Because the Sunnis are backed by whom? By the Saudis and by the Turks. The Saudis and the Turks are Sunnis. The Iranians and the Shiite leadership of Syria and the Hezbollah are Shiites. Now, you all heard of this Hezbollah in Lebanon, right? They're Shiites. They are doomed. The Shiites... Wait a second, don't clap so fast, because it's going to be out of the pan into the fire. The Sunnis, backed by the Turks... By the way, how many people heard that the Turks have given the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad 2 weeks ultimatum to stop killing its people? Okay, this is in the news. 1 week is up. We're talking about a week from now. If the Syrian government does not stop massacring its people, I believe the Turks are going to do something. The Turks are backed by the Saudis, and the Turks are also backed by the U.S. Now, when the Muslims who are Sunnis destroy the Muslims who are Shiites, they're also going to kill the Christians in Syria. When they kill the Christians in Syria, they're going to kill the Christians in Lebanon and in Iraq. They're going to kill the Shiites in Lebanon and in Syria. So the good news is Iran loses 2 allies, Lebanon and Syria. These countries get overrun by the fanatic Sunni Muslim Brotherhood. And what's going to happen? The Christians, where are they going to go? They're going to come here. Is it good for America or bad for America? It's good for America. But when the Christians leave the Middle East and you're left with Muslim regimes, the regimes collapse. When the Muslim regimes collapse, where do the Muslims go? They come here too. So you're going to have 70 million Egyptian Muslims coming here. You're going to have 10 or 15 million Syrian Muslims coming here, together with the Christians. You're going to have 100 million immigrants coming here with the Christians. Now, when the Middle East in its entirety collapses, because that's what we see happening, the Islamic regime is like communism. It doesn't work. And so the people are going to leave. They're going to come here. Your population is going to grow to 100, 150 million Muslims. And anyone who protests, like Avi Lipkin, goes to jail. Do you understand why it's so important that America be a Christian country and not a Muslim country? Because when America becomes a Muslim country, it too will self-destruct. Because Islam is a satanic system. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about a demographic change in the United States of America. I was born in 1949, and I always knew that America was a Judeo-Christian country. In Obama's inaugural address, he said, America today is a Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu country. How many people remember that? Okay, so if America now is Christian, Muslim, Jews are number 3, not number 2 anymore. So I want to talk a little bit about the population. Now, how many people heard of Michael Medved? Now, I love Michael Medved. I've been on his show many times under the name Victor Mordecai. I don't know if any of you remember my name. So I am Avi Lipkin, Victor Mordecai. The books are Avi Lipkin, Victor Mordecai. I have had the honor and the pleasure to spend 3 Sabbaths together with Michael Medved and his wife Diane and Rabbi Lapin in Mercer Island. Very sweet people, I love them. But I have a disagreement with Michael Medved, and I very respectfully talk about the disagreement. I say to Michael Medved, there are 20 million Muslims in America, and he gets very angry. He says there are only 2 million. And I want to show you where the millions of Muslims came from. You have in America today 9 million Iranians. Or we have to end very soon? Okay, 5 minutes. Okay. Thank you. By the way, my wife is not here, so indeed all of you are the bosses. So otherwise she's the boss. Okay, now. So you have 9 million Iranian Muslim Shiites who came here because they had to flee from Iran. And America did the right thing by receiving these Iranian people. In LA, you have a lot of Iranians. They're great people. They're not bad people. Oh, they're Muslim. Okay. I'm not saying the Muslims are bad. I'm just saying that these are the demographics in the United States today. 9 million Muslims. You have 7 million Arabs, Arab Muslims, which are not Iranian, they're not Farsi, they're Arabs, they're Semites, and they are part of the Arab Immigrant Association. That's 16 million. You got 4 million at least black Farrakhan, Nation of Islam Muslims. That's 20 million. And I want to tell you one or two little things that I've picked up in my travels. You know, I rent a car in Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, returned the keys to a young guy from Indonesia, very sweet guy, very friendly. And he says, volunteers, he starts talking to me, telling me things. He says, America's the greatest country on earth. You know why? I was a FedEx UPS type errand boy, delivery boy in Jakarta, in Indonesia. And one day I had to deliver packages to the U.S. Embassy. I go to the U.S. Embassy, and while I'm there, an American embassy official says to me, you want to move to America? You're going tomorrow. Just sign on the dotted line and get your family ready, and you get on the plane tomorrow. No visa, no green card. You know, Californians are all talking about green cards all the time. You know, about visas, green cards. Mexicans are such, of course, they say that, oh, Mexicans, such a problem. By the way, the Europeans should just be so lucky to have Mexicans. Because the Mexicans are Christian. They may not be the same kind of Christian, but they're not out to make America a Muslim country. The Latin Americans. Latinos, Europe should have had Latinos. They don't have Latinos. They have people from Africa and Muslims. Okay. And so this Indonesian guy came with his family, and there are thousands of Muslims flying into the U.S. every day on chartered flights paid for by the taxpayers. The floodgates in Washington are open by the Saudi bribery money. Doesn't matter Democrat or Republican. The gates have been open for decades. Let me tell you a story. This is in my first book. How many people heard of Duke University in Chapel Hill, North Carolina? Okay, Duke University. A good university, not a bad university. It's not Ivy League. I would say if you want to give it an A, B, C, it's a B. It's a good university. One day, they get a call or a letter from some Saudi prince, and he says, I'm coming to give you guys a $23 million donation from our kingdom. Now, is the university going to be happy or not? Okay, so they make a big reception. At the reception, this prince, Saudi or Indonesian or whatever, he says, you know what? I think this is a great university. I'm happy to be here. And the only problem is, you know, you guys don't have an Arabic language chair or Islamic studies chair. And you're an international level university. And we know that you Americans don't have a clue about Islam. So we're going to give you the teaching aids. We're going to give you the professors. And you know what? We're going to give you, listen to this. We're going to give you 500 young male Muslim students every year. They'll pay full room, board, and tuition. That's a lot of money. You're talking about 23 million, and $100 million in expenses that these students are going to pay in Chapel Hill. And so at the end of 2 years, you have 2,000 Muslim students in that university. You have freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And boys will be boys. They need girls. And in case you didn't hear me what I said before, a Muslim man may marry a Christian or Jewish woman, and that Jewish or Christian woman becomes a baby factory for Islam. And once the Muslim man marries a Christian or Jewish woman, within 2 years he has a passport. Once he has a passport, he can bring all his family in from the Middle East. So, is anything too big for the Saudis and for their Muslim dollars? Is it not possible that they've bribed hundreds of universities, and each university gets 500 Muslim students, and in turn these Muslim students marry Jewish and Christian girls? Do you understand how from the 1960s, when I moved to Israel, there were no Muslims in America? And all of a sudden, the last 30, 40 years, you've got 20, 30 million Muslims in America. And it's by stealth. Nobody sees it, nobody knows. And I'm not even talking about those who have illegally infiltrated from across the borders of Mexico and Canada. So if I say to you, you're going to have 100, 150 million Muslims in America, that's not a big deal because you already have 20, 30 million Muslims here legally. So the plan, again, crosses Democratic and Republican Party lines. It's a question of who is bribed and who serves the Lord and who serves Mammon. So in churches, my message is understood very clearly. America is losing its Judeo-Christianity. Today, America is a Christian Muslim country. It's like one nation under God and Satan. That's not funny. One nation under Allah and God. It's not the same God. And yet you have churches in America like Chrislam Church. How many people heard of Chrislam? Okay, I have to tell you. Okay, you have Chrislam and you have purpose-driven churches. These churches do not attack Islam. They refuse to see it and attack it. They said, let's make nice. Let's make kumbaya. Okay? Huh? Episcopal. I don't want to give names because even in the Baptist church, Chrislam churches come out of the Southern Baptists, and you got a lot of pro-Zionist Baptist churches. I have to tell you, I was in an Assembly of God church in Melbourne, Florida, Pastor Gary Cristofaro. And they have the regular Sunday morning service, but they started to have a Friday night Hebraic Roots Christian service. And they got a call from the mosque, and the imam says, oh, alhamdulillah, praise Allah, you are praying on Fridays, we pray on Fridays. Let's have a joint service. It will be called Chrislam. And if you agree to a Chrislam service that Allah and God are the same, we will give you $25,000. And in today's American economy, there are a lot of pastors who need the $25,000. And as for the Jews, I don't have to tell you. The Reform and conservative Jews don't want to hear a word I'm saying. And the Orthodox Jews, some of them listen to me, but they say, it's going to get people depressed on the Sabbath. We don't want to get people depressed on the Sabbath. Okay, now I want to conclude because I'm already into 2 hours, and I want to get to something. I'm going to change subjects completely. By the way, Agenda 21. I didn't talk about Agenda 21. I'm going to give you now 2 testimonies from Canada, but they apply to the U.S. From the city of Edmonton. Has anyone ever been in Edmonton? Edmonton's a beautiful place. You drive 1 hour to the west, you're in the Rockies, Canadian Rockies. Now, when you approach the Canadian Rockies, you first hit the foothills, and the foothills have forests. This is a testimony I received 15 years ago, and I stopped talking about it. Now I'm talking about it again because it's Agenda 21. I was told about this in the church. They buy a forest, they knock down a winding path into the forest, that nobody can see what's going on in the center of the forest. They knock down the first circle of trees, and they build a mosque. There's nobody there. They build a mosque, beautiful mosque. Then they knock down the next circle of trees. They build schools, stores, institutions of the community. Then they knock down the next circle of trees, and they put up housing for 50,000 Muslims. This is Agenda 21. Because the moment the UN or the government takes away U.S. natural resources and forests, and America is empty. America can easily take in 50 to 100 million Muslims. And when these countries in the Middle East collapse, by the way, if you're talking about economics, all these immigrants are going to get America out of the recession. Okay. Another testimony from Edmonton. This is a very hard testimony. This is my second most important testimony. Now, in case you don't know, I think I mentioned it, but I'll mention it again. I am working to form a Judeo-Christian political party to run for the Israeli Knesset elections. The Christians in Israel today are 8%. They should have 8 members of Knesset out of 120. There's not one Christian in the Knesset. I'm forming not a Christian party. I'm forming a Judeo-Christian Western civilization party, which means the values that made America great 200 years ago. Based on the values of the Tanakh, of the Old Testament. You want to believe in the New Testament? Israel's a free country, at least it should be. You want to believe in the Old Testament or in the Talmud? It's a free country, you believe as you wish. I've been working now for the last 21 years of my life to form an international Judeo-Christian alliance to save America, to save Israel, to save the West, and to save the world. I drew a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland for this. Until 20 years ago, in the fall of Soviet communism, the Christians of Israel were only the Arab Christians. There were 2%. Half were Catholic, half were Greek Orthodox. Today, Israel's population is 8% Christian, because you've got 2% Arab Christian, 6% immigrant Christian, which includes Russians, Ukrainians, and Ethiopians. 8%. 6% of Israel is Jewish, married to the Christians because of intermarriage. So the potential constituency for the Judeo-Christian party that I'm forming is 14%. Now I'm going to show you how the population is going to grow from 14% Judeo-Christian to 40, 50, 60% Judeo-Christian overnight. And it's going to happen after the next war breaks out between Israel and its neighbors. And the party that I'm forming will become the biggest party in the Israeli political system. Don't clap till it actually happens, please. Now, I was in Edmonton, and, I speak in churches 5 days a week. On Sabbath, I speak for free in the synagogues. And I go to an Orthodox synagogue, and my Christian hostess in Edmonton introduces me to the rabbi. And the rabbi, says, "So what's a nice Jewish boy like you doing in Christian churches?" And I said to the rabbi, "Listen, Rabbi, without the Christians, we're sunk. We need the Christians on our side. There are 1.5 billion Muslims. If we have 100 million Christians on our side, that levels the playing field." He says, "I never thought of it like that. God bless you. Jews are not allowed to go into churches, according to the Talmud." So he says, "I wouldn't go into a church, but if you go into a church, God bless you." Which is, by the way, an achievement. Okay. Next morning, he introduces me. He says the Christians give him 10 hours, because I do 10-hour seminars. We Jews are going to give him 10 minutes. And they give me 10 minutes in the synagogue. I get up, I get shouted down by the liberals. Liberals are liberal with you if you're liberal like they. But if you're not liberal like they, they're not going to be liberal with you. Because true liberals are socialist totalitarians. That's the problem. And I didn't speak. And so a Christian woman who was attending the synagogue got up to speak. And she gets up and she says, "Avi's right. Let me tell you why Avi's right. You all know me. I'm here every Shabbat in the synagogue. I'm a Christian woman. I come to synagogue every Shabbat because Jesus did not go to church on Sunday. Jesus went to synagogue on Saturday." Okay, funny. So anyway, she says like this. She says, "I am a social worker for the government of Canada, and I'm a caseworker for an Egyptian Muslim woman doctor who is in hiding in Edmonton, Canada with 24-hour police protection. This woman received a death sentence from the Islamic Jihad because when they said to her, 'You're going to collect the names of all the Jews in Edmonton and give it to us and we're going to kill them,' she said, 'I'm a doctor. I'm sworn to the Hippocratic Oath to heal people and save lives. I'm not here to kill people, even the Jews.' So she had to flee. Her best friend was standing next to her. They pulled out a knife and they slit her throat. And they said to this Muslim doctor, 'If you don't work for us, this is what's going to happen to you.' This was, by the way, in all the newspapers in Alberta, Canada, in the summer of '99. The story never made it to British Columbia, never made it to Saskatchewan or the U.S. And so she says like this. This woman received asylum in the Canadian Embassy in Cairo. The Canadian Air Force flew a private jet to pick her up, brought her to Edmonton, and now she's in a safe house in Edmonton. And this Christian woman is the social worker taking care of this Muslim woman in Canada. And she went on to say, this is the point, this is maybe the summation point. The Muslims, 90% of them in Canada are considered peacekeeping, law-abiding people. 90%. 10% are considered people who get their salaries in the Middle East and they're terrorists. Now in America today, if I am right and Michael Medved is wrong, and you have 20 to 30 million Muslims, how much is 10% of 20 million? It's 2 million. By the way, how many people shut down the U.S. on 9/11? 19. I know Navy SEALs who said to me, "Give me 50 SEALs, we shut down the U.S." So you're talking about millions of Muslims on American soil that when they get the orders for jihad, they can run after the Jews and kill them. And these people have the names, addresses, and telephone numbers of the Jews in every city. Now, by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, and I get attacked by the rabbis for telling this joke, but you know that Jews and Christians, I'm almost finished, Jews and Christians intermarry at the rate of 50 to 70%. In other words, every 10 Jews who get married in the United States, 5, 6, or 7 of the 10 marry Christians. In other words, we hate you till we marry you. Okay? When the day comes for jihad, in other words, when a war breaks out between Israel and its neighbors, a parallel war will break out in the diaspora in which Jews and Christians will be slaughtered exactly as the Nazis did it. They will kill Jews and Christians and children of the intermarriage. This will set into motion a tsunami of Jews and Christians that will move to Israel. Do you understand why the Bible Bloc Party is the harbinger of the future for Israeli politics? We have to have Western civilization in Israeli politics. Let me finish. We'll do